Welcome to Sitting with Shay J. Today we are joined by Shay and Langston Jacobs, founders of Adam's Purpose. After facing their own personal grief, they launched Adam's Purpose to raise awareness and provide support. For those coping with loss, today they're going to share their journey and discuss the importance of grief awareness right here in our very own community. What an inspiration to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks you.
Again.
Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation because I think we know Mother's Day is such a celebratory moment, but sometimes we don't think about those that might not be such in the celebratory mood, right? So this is a great way to really dig into that. I want to know, what is the inspiration behind you building out Adam's Purpose? Why did this happen? Why Adam's Purpose?
Yeah, so the reason why we developed Adam's Purpose, Shay, was out of lived experience.
Oh.
I mean, point blank. In 2018, Langston and I, we lost his mom. So we lost a matriarch. Shortly after that, we found out we were pregnant, and it really helped us to kind of heal through losing mom. Unfortunately, we found out that baby, Adam, didn't have a heartbeat. And so we had a stillborn, and that was devastating. Shortly after Adam, we lost our 21-year-old spiritual niece to medical complications. And other family and friends and loved ones were grieving as well. So our starting Adam's Purpose was out of our own need to try to find help, hope, and healing and new meaning after such devastation had hit our lives.
Man, live experience sometimes. It's the moment where we recognize what others might need, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's such a beautiful moment to see we're not alone and you're building this community. What are some of the unique challenges that you feel like mothers who are coping with loss, especially loss of a child, what are those unique things that we're coming across, and how does Adam's Purpose really connect to those challenges?
I think we want to normalize grief just as if we were normalizing a trip to the doctor's office or to the dentist's office. We never wanted to experience that in 2018. So being a male, experiencing a lot of shame of, can I show emotion? And so we really want to normalize that grief process. In order to do that, we have to create safe communities, safe spaces to grieve, and not just that, but places that are culturally relevant for us to grieve as well.
That's necessary and definitely a challenge. And so I'm grateful to be able to give you guys a resource out there watching. I know a lot of you might be at home grieving and not knowing how do I find coping strategies. If you could offer some coping strategies for those navigating this grief process, what would that be?
Yeah, so some of the coping strategies, and to answer your question before, some of the challenges to get to the coping strategies, some of the challenges are grieving alone. Right? Not really having a safe space to grieve. Many times women are the matriarchs to their families, and so they're helping everybody else along with the grieving journey. So we specifically support right now bereaved moms of color, right? So moms who've experienced a pregnancy and infant loss like we had, or stillbirth, up to moms who've experienced losing a child through other forms of loss, like violence, a gun shooting, so murder, suicide, drug overdose, tragic accidents, and sickness or illness. So to any type of form. And what we have found is that it is difficult to find a safe space to grieve, especially when there's social justice issues related to some of our moms' cases, where they can't even grieve because they're trying to fight for justice, or they're trying to find out, what actually happened to their children, or some type of a systemic issue that they felt like really could have prevented the death of their children as it pertains to maybe some type of a medical issue or malpractice or mistreatment. And so the issue that we're finding that most moms are saying is that grieving the loss of your child is super devastating, and it's very lonely. And so even for those moms who may be married, it's still that men grieve differently, the fathers grieve differently, their children are grieving differently. And what we've created with Adam's Purpose is a place for those moms to come and to have those sister-like and peer-like relationships to help them to grieve in community and not alone.
I love that. We need community. And those women, what are some of those coping strategies that you're offering those ladies?
Yeah, so some of the coping strategies that our therapists pull into our classes would be definitely breathing. As mentioned before, my husband talked about journaling, getting in touch with emotions. So really just allowing yourself to feel what you feel and process it so that your feelings don't have to navigate up against your thoughts or a religion or how somebody else's has an expectation of how you're to grieve. So that we really call it grieve gracefully so that you can grieve freely and that you could grieve in a way that doesn't cause any further injury or hurt to yourself or to someone else. And so we do that in a variety of ways. We bring in the arts. We bring in different modalities, so whether that is poetry, reenactment even, for some moms to just reenact the moment of what they felt like when it first happened. So being able to get in touch with their emotions. We have created different things, painting, any type of memoir or remembrance item. So whatever it is, we kind of provide a shell and we allow these moms to navigate and make it their own journey.
Wow, I think everybody's having a unique journey, so it's great to
Yes.
see meeting people where they're at. You know, in this society, often miscarriages and stillbirths are not talked about or always even recognized or acknowledged as a significant loss. Can we discuss a little bit the impact of the lack of recognizing these as losses for individuals? And how do we really make sure we start getting towards us recognizing these and supporting people that are affected by these type of losses?
I think one thing is we do need more Black birthdays, more Black births. As Black men in particular, we have the highest mortality rate of any demographic from 0 to birth, age 1 to 10, and so forth. And so to definitely celebrate, birth and celebrate good health. Also to have good, healthy community as in every phase of life. Whether it is in while the mother is pregnant. The father can also help with prenatal vitamins, with exercise, with coping skills, with nutrition, and all those things on the front end. And also getting culturally relative medical care. And not being turned away at the doctor if a mother has a pain or something doesn't seem quite right, to really be assertive to your family doctor and really not accept a push away for an answer.
Wow, I love that. We've got to be aware of the things that we may need during these processes. As we look at grief, particularly the loss of a child and the effects that it has on the dynamic of partnership, I see you two here as a wonderful partnership. Those families and relationships, in which way does this shared loss experience maybe strengthen the bonds or maybe strain the bonds? What does that look like when you see that partnership element?
Well, we've experienced it. By God's grace, our bond was strengthened. I think when my husband lost his mom, he can attest to feeling completely hopeless and that there was nothing he could do for us when we lost our son. So that was the negative aspect of that. The positive aspect of it is that we dealt with it. We embraced the pain. We didn't stuff it down. I remember his key words to me saying, "We're hurting. This is painful. We're hurting. This is painful. We don't have all the answers, but we're not going to stuff this down like it didn't happen. We're going to deal with it and we're going to get help." And so he was really the launch pad that helped to even induce me into getting more help and making it like real. Because when you experience grief, that denial, it could be such a toxic shock to your mind, to your emotions, to your whole system. I had problems really accepting that this had happened. I remember waking up a couple times like, was I pregnant? Did we really have a son? Did we lose him? Like, it was such a blur, and they call that a grief fog, like a lack of memory, not being able to understand where you are, what happened, what's real and what's not. It's a really interesting phenomenon when grief impacts your life because your system is trying to protect you emotionally and psychologically from a mental breakdown because it is just a dynamic impact. Grief can impact you, obviously, your sleep. It can impact your appetite. It can impact, obviously, your mood, very often associated with depression. And so there's not things that you would normally do anymore. It could just take a long time to build yourself up into a new person because you will never be the same. When grief impacts your life, when you lose a loved one, it hurts you to the core. And what we must understand and normalize is that life will never be the same. So then what do we do with this new life that we've been forced to reckon with? And that's what we try to do at Adam's Purpose, is not to throw the grief away or to rush the process, but find new meaning. Because there is still purpose after we lose a loved one. As hard as it is to say, as hard as it is to come to grips with that, there is still purpose for each and every person who still remains here on this earth. So what we really try to help our constituents and our participants through is how to navigate to finding the new you, because you will never, ever be the same. But you can live again.
You can live again. I love that. Can you share maybe some practical tips or resources that grieving mothers can utilize to honor their children? I know we touched on that a little bit. If they're trying to honor their child's memory during this time, especially during Mother's Day, what are moments of silence or healing throughout this grief journey that you can say, this is a great way to remember your child?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, even as a man who didn't bear a child or so forth, one thing I had to notice that I couldn't fix that process. Sometimes as a man, you want to fix, but I had to exercise the muscle of listening and also exercise that muscle of grace, that it's okay to move a little slower, it's okay to not completely understand, and it's okay to learn about this process. As far as practicality, whatever you normally like to do. Fresh air, we live in one of the best sunshine states and cities in the United States, getting some sunshine, listening to your favorite song. And that can be bittersweet. Sometimes I listen to a lot of 70s and 80s R&B that my mother loved. And I cry and groove and cry. And there's, there's art, there's talking to someone about it. And there's sometimes you may be in a grocery store and if you're a fan of peach cobbler, you may go past the peaches and think about peach cobbler. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay to be in that space. But maybe later, make a peach cobbler and invite some friends over for peach cobbler and ice cream.
So I would just say, a favorite dessert, that your loved one liked, enjoying that. What we do for remembrance, sometimes we release balloons. We hold like a remembrance celebration, when that time comes around. We create poetry or art. But there are many different ways that a mom or her family can practice what we call remembrance. Sometimes lighting a candle, sometimes just speaking out loud and saying, hey, we wish you were here. Remembrance days come around like Mother's Day, but also like birthdays and holidays. I know sometimes people have gotten a gift for their loved one to kind of store up, or have made something special that their loved one would like, or have taken a trip together in honor of their loved one. So just a variety of different ways, depending on if you have young children. I would just say the main thing is keep saying their name. Don't stop saying their name. Keep their memories alive. That's part of the healing process, is to bring them to the forefront and to acknowledge that they did exist, whether it was a baby in the womb or a child that was birthed in the earth, no matter the age, is we keep the memories alive by gracefully talking about them. I always tell people, they say, well, Shay, how many children do you and Langston have? And I say, we have 4. Right? So I don't remove our child that we lost. I said, we have 4 sons, and it has become common language for me to say, we've got 3 boys here and 1 son in heaven. And it gives me an opportunity to normalize. Like, grief is real, and I'm yet still living. I yet still have joy, right? I've had, in the midst of it all, I've had some sad times. Don't get me wrong, but I keep Adam's legacy and his purpose alive by saying his name and then doing work in the honor of his life.
I hope someone at home is getting what they need from this. I know you have a Remembrance Memorial celebration coming up, an event. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it's for grieving mothers and how they can be a part of this?
Absolutely. So mentioning of remembrance, one of the things that we found it to do was for not only to do individual remembrance, but to do what we call community and collective remembrance, for community and collective healing as we are grieving together. And so we developed what's called a Mother's Mourn. And a Mother's Mourn is a healing and remembrance celebration whereby, Shay, we honor the mom and her family who's going through the grief and loss, but in a form of remembrance.
Right.
But we also make time for their deceased legacy. And so it's really important because where so many times we're not saying their name or we might not be acknowledging them, in this one setting, other people get to say their name. Other people get to know who your child was and have a glimpse of the impact they may have made in the earth, right? And so it's such a beautiful time, yes, of mourning, but it's also a beautiful time of healing because women who have shared experiences and families who have shared experiences get to come together in this beautiful collective space to be one, inspired and empowered by another bereaved mom who talks about the journey, who makes it real and plain, who really gets it. But also we use the creative arts and dramatization to pull on that because sometimes we have no words to express our grief. It's just there. And then we wrap it up with that communal activity or that communal remembrance where we say all their names. And so everyone in the room has an opportunity to see their child's picture, their name, and have a moment to release where they will not be, told that they can't grieve.
Wow, I had the pleasure of checking this event out last year, and I was in complete amazement of how much community was there, right?
Yeah.
To see so many people in community from different ages and spaces and walks of life really come together to honor their children, honor loss during such a beautiful occasion as Mother's Day was amazing. So if you need the support, please check out Adam's Purpose, and you are not alone this year. As we conclude this segment, I want to say thank you very much for each and every one of you coming.
Yes.
I am so grateful. Langston, Shay, thank you for joining us and sharing your inspiring story and also how you're helping this community through Adam's Purpose. Your dedication to raising awareness and support, it is admirable. I know it takes a lot and it's not easy, but also everyone out there, if you know someone that is in need of support, Adam's Purpose is here to help. Until next time, remember to embrace each day with compassion and grace.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Sitting with Shay J, where we explore impact and inspire change.